we just like working with Brian. I think probably most continuously, he's the composer who's written most music for us, although there are others who've written many quartets. But over the years, he's someone that we've constantly wanted music from because of the great depth of the music and the great interest in rehearsal. Obviously, we're talking about very complex music and the sort of intellectual and performing challenge that is required.
I knew when I did do a sixth quartet that it would be a long one. I felt the urge somehow to balance out the sonatas for string quartet that I'd written so many years ago in 20-odd little sections, with something also in tiny little sections, but these sections would not be placed next to each other contiguously, but they would be superimposed.
Brian came up with this amazing sixth quartet, this very dense piece, very melodic piece. It's a new world. It's a continuation. It's probably not a new world, but one can see the development through Brian's string quartet music from the early days.
And speaking specifically about this quartet, I think one of the challenges was how do you deal with the time implicit in the little fragments themselves? In other words, the sort of relationship to human gesturality, to human temporal sensibility, to somatic tensions, to heartbeat and breathing and so on. And at the same time write a piece which is made up of rather a large number of these small sections, which has to sustain itself and its musical architecture over quite a considerable time.
After the initial process of individually looking at the parts, we come together, we analyse the score. The first bar's fairly straightforward. Ralf has pulsation on each quaver beat.
So first bar in 2.
First bar
in 2.
Second bar in 1 and 1/4 beat.
Yeah.
But it's good because he has a piano on the quarter beat and then a loudish note on the beginning of the third bar. So we maybe made mathematical calculations to simplify the understanding of the music for us, change bar lengths, change tempi, in order that we can more clearly access what Brian wants.
1 plus 32.
1/8 plus 3, 32.
Yep.
I've had discussions with Brian about this in the past. He feels he has to write the music the way he writes it, that's the way he sees it. But as a performer, to really understand more clearly how the piece should be played, we need to do this homework, this mathematical homework, before we begin rehearsing. Okay, let's give it a whirl.
Okay.
That's it. I can't find it.
That was 16?
Yeah. No, that's
16.
Yeah.
Not 60. 16, yeah, that's what I said, sorry.
It sounds good already.
Yeah.
We don't need to rehearse it anymore, do we? Here we have a fairly normal 5/8 measure where to some degree events happen on the beat. In fact, they only happen here twice on the beat, but we know where the beats come. The beat comes here, which is actually after the note has started, and then here it comes on this B harmonic, and here it comes on another B placed on B, but a different note because it's played on a different string. Here, this section is not a full beat, so the beat comes after the beginning of this 10 in the time of 13, and the last beat comes towards the end of that. So this technical term, I think, is putting the grass in. It's grass meaning the lines which come down, which indicate to you where things happen. The main tempo here is 50, and we've divided these into different units. This becomes a 366 bar, so we've spread it over the 932 to be divided in threes. Becomes a 366 bar, so 3 beats at 66 instead of 50. Here it goes back to the initial tempo. We've just marked it in semiquaver 16th notes to be 100, which is twice as fast as the 8th notes in the previous bar. Here again we've divided 3 beats at 66, then going back to 50. So we're alternating between a tempo of 66 and 50. This is a section where I'm pitted against the other three rhythmically. The other three are playing a rhythm which is written on the top and exactly where that occurs. So I know spatially this note, for instance, has to be after I've played this, and then they play in between. It's very important to have that written in to see what it should be.
The typical sound in this early part of the piece is actually all forms of use of the wood of the bow. So a lot of the time you're actually bowing normally, but you're using wood rather than string. It's not really coming across as that yet. Yeah, that's it. So if both of you could coordinate on that sound.
Yeah, okay, we can. Maybe we weren't doing them all.
Yeah.
34? Yeah.
Yep. Watch out for the dynamics of these dilla things. They're meant to be like sort of fan opening and closing. So they're coming from nowhere or going back to nowhere. Mm-hmm. So they're emerging from the they're emerging from the texture, and then that gives a chance of the harmonic fingers to sound a bit better, I think. That's all. Well, no, it's just a trick, isn't it? I'd been working with what you might call a sausage slicer technique, where the length of sections would be predetermined. The rhythmic structure, the instrumentation, and general dramatic flow of each of these sections would be determined, but that the other elements which go to make up the musical discourse would not then in advance be determined to the same degree. So I was working very much on a sort of section-to-section basis. And these sections were very small.
This is distinctly minimal, Brian.
Minimal, yes. If all four players were doing it, it was all in quarter notes, yes. It's like, you know, the beginning of the Stravinsky.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes, like that. So do that. Just do that. Just do that.
Instead.
No, that's what's written.
No, but there is an accent of the first one here as well.
Yes, there's
the Stravinsky.
Yes, that's it. It's just a 64th note. Yes. Exactly, yes. Thank you. Okay, 85 is the second theme, if anybody's interested.
It's the second theme?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, that's
It comes back over and over again. Like, no, look, just a minute. 85, 86, 89. It comes back all over the place. And I'm really interested in the harmony here, so don't push it on too much, all right?
Just play what you wrote, yeah?
You can play what I wrote as well, yes.
Which is a bit faster than we just played then.
Well, don't make it any faster, I would say.
Well, this is the tempo. It's 3 beats of 66. 85. Let's do. Can we play 85?
Yeah.
Learned scholars. Continue later. It's the same tempo, yeah?
66.
Okay, what's essentially happening is that the first and second violins are playing one version of the second motive, and the viola and the cello are playing another one. So, air and spare, you know how it is.
Aaron.
Well, shush.
Shush, because it goes
It's
down to
3
piano.
Fs and
Yeah, but you
say shush right on the word of the diminuendo.
Because
I'm still 3
I have
Fs.
this
Shush,
arrow-like
shush.
predictive mentality of it, you see. Which, like the arrow of Eros, plants itself straight in the foreheads of all those who dare to contravene my instructions.
All right then. I'll go and have a cup of tea.
Did you get this?
Time for a cup of tea. I don't want no bleeding arrows in my head. I'll go for a cup of tea.
The thing is with these things, once you've got one of the groups in motion, you have to keep it at the same speed, right? You can't adjust it as you go along.
Yeah.
That's very important. Okay?
Yeah.
Because they're like Irvine's here. You know, it's we've just got to
Am I not
estimate
doing
it. No, it's okay. I'm making this just as a general
What do you mean
comment.
it's okay? It was good.
It was fine. It was fine. I'm just saying it's a
What do you
general
mean
comment.
it was fine?
It was absolutely perfect and brilliant, Irvine. What can I say?
Ah! Then I'm definitely going to have a cup of tea. Brian's music is very much about harmony and the melodic lines and microtonal inflections. In so many of the pieces, one has to really look very carefully at what the notes are, because he's playing around with certain key pitches. And one note is a microtone above, then you have the normal note, a microtone below, the semitone below, and then microtones around that. And these inflections, I think, are really important in the interpretation of his music, to do them accurately.
Okay. Now I remember what I'm doing here. Now I remember. All right. It's very important in 205 and 206 and Passim, as it were, that you get all these microtonal things right, because they're now starting to build up a harmony and directionalities. Dee, 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 things like that. Yeah? Do, do, do. That's right, yes, eighth tone things. That's very important. It's more important than the other things. Except Irvine's got more of them than anybody else, of course.
Everything's important.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm beginning to hear these things coming in finally. Dee da 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 da. So they're more important than the dee da dee da. In every case. Okay. Can I try it without the first violin? Do you mind?
Positively Viennese.
I missed my age, what can I say?
We're just going to do the whole thing in two.
Still wrong though. In the 3/16 measure, you're making the fifth note of the measure too long.
Sorry, but it's a 3-bar.
Da, 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 da.
Yeah, and
sorry, and this one is
9 in the time of 8 and then 5 in the time of 4, whereby the first one is missing. So you've got
exactly.
da-da-da-da-da,
No,
bop,
but
bop,
if you're
da-da-da,
thinking in 4, so 3, body, that comes.
da-da-da, da-dum, bom, 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 ba-da-da-da.
Can you just lead this? Can you lead this, please?
That's good. Again. Viola. Okay, what's happening in this section is that you've got basically a much more detailed version of the opening, but the fortissimo or quadruple fortissimi inserts gradually accumulate until you break into this 2 violin thing. So it is a sort of a cumulative thing from 303. Some of those things are very fast. 308. Bom, bom, da-da-da, bom. It's an incredibly fast one. Then there's another one at 317 for Irvine. 316, excuse me, and then 317. trying to work out this sort of hypertonal thing I've been working on, where you get this, you've got the B flat D and the F sharp augmented triad, and you've got different false dominants around them, and this sort of cycling. That's what's happening at the end here. I, funnily enough, don't hear it very clearly. I do hear the F sharp one, and I hear the B flat one, but there's no D in at the moment, so that's probably...
Well, where was it supposed to be?
Who's not playing the D loud enough?
There isn't a D in it at this point.
There's no D in it.
Well, there is. It's actually Lucas.
Where? In which
In the last note of the penultimate measure, you've got the B flat and the D.
Yeah? You can't hear it?
A bit more would be nice, because the F sharp... yes, and the F sharp with Ralf.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it's about.
Mahler.
Well, no, not about Mahler.
How about giving it a rest for today?
Yes, how about it?
No, I think we've done quite a lot of work.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Enormous
Yes. Incredible. I'm very frequently asked about why I prefer to write string quartets to many other genres. And apart from the fact that I like doing it, there are other considerations at play, I think, which impinge upon the relationship of contemporary music to society. There is a big difference between a string quartet and a string trio, for instance. String trio is a much more static type of chain form relating to the Baroque trio sonata. The string quartet, right from the beginning, was always a much more subtle medium for the expression of social relationships. The old image of, four civilized people talking to each other in terms that would not have been unfamiliar to philosophers of the Enlightenment. And whilst that, of course, is somewhat absurd from the present-day standpoint, and indeed was turned on its head by Charles Ives, who had four very irascible characters climbing a mountain and shrieking at each other for 15 minutes. It does seem to me there is something about the quartet which is inherently imbricated with what we understand human relationships to be on a highly evolved level. It wasn't meant to be. No, I finally remembered where that bit comes from. Da-da-dum, da-dum. It comes from the fourth movement of the second.
Yeah.
You've got a duo.
Exactly.
Yeah, that one. Yes. Yeah, the whole thing collapses at this point. With this, the speeds are all different.
It just has.
I realise that, but I meant in the truly Nietzschean positive sense.
Oh, this is in the truly Ardittian negative sense.
Is there anything positive about Nietzsche?
The birth of tragedy from the spirit of music. This is the birth of tragedy.
What's very interesting for me is in such complex music, Brian understands very well how to write for the instruments. I don't think I've ever come across something that can't be played. I think this is extraordinary for a non-string player and for someone writing such complex material. He really has a good feeling for how to write for instruments, and although it's challenging, extremely difficult, it's never impossible.
I don't hear the harmonics coming through really very well. Could you emphasise them just a little bit?
So what? Yeah.
When you play, the harmonics don't always sound at the same time, unfortunately. So it sort of gets. Could we just try that through again? I'm sorry, I don't mean to stop your trajectory, but
Let's do the three of us without them. Yeah. Okay.
crescendo. It's actually a bit slower at the end. Da 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 dum.
Yeah.
So not it. Okay. No, well, you've all got it's prolation. They're playing exactly the same notes as you, but much slower.
No, I understand. Yeah. I understand the compositional aspect of it, but the technical aspect of it, that is extremely hard to put that in tune together. Extremely. And you first did this in exordium.
No, done forward.
Was it?
Oh, which one? Which
came
one
first,
first?
the chicken or the egg? I'm not sure.
The dinosaur.
Right.
Well, the first violin solo develops over a certain amount of time. It starts as just as simply as a faster version of what the other instruments are doing. And the other instruments then are gradually eaten away by the insistence of the violin. And in fact, the main body of the first violin material is really literally solo, playing by himself, albeit in two parts. Bit more vibrato, folks. Sort of, I don't know, Eric Satie type things, very gentle and sort of simple.
Who?
No, you know, he didn't write a string quartet, did he? Right, but, you know, it's got to be very, very
I'm a little bit vexed about how you want it, actually.
Suggest another predecessor then.
Were you talking to me when you mentioned vibrato?
No, well, no, I just spoke of vibrato on everybody's part, I think.
Does it? Where does it say?
Went in 202. Actually, yours doesn't, so yours is sempre non-vibrato.
Absolute non-vibrato.
No.
Absoluto.
Irvine,
That's great,
that bit with ba-ba-ba-ba-bam-ba-dam, where does that
Yeah, Zigarren. Yeah, actually, that'd be good to know where the Zigarren stands.
Where's that? Oh, that's the second half of 194.
1, 2, 3, 9,
4. That's Zigarren.
4.
Second half.
Oh yeah, boom. I didn't set out with a series of harmonic devices which could be applied in different circumstances. I think each of them was generated ad hoc to fit a particular situation. However, I did know at the end of the piece that I wanted to detune the G string of the viola to F sharp, so that we had open strings on B flat, D and F sharp. What I'm looking for at that particular point, particularly in this last measure, is sort of reaching towards this augmented triad and not arriving there. And Lucas gets completely off center because he's trying to move in two different directions at once to arrive somewhere, and also doesn't on the last chord. So your notes are important, Irvine, I think, because you've got the A8 flat and the 3/4 C sharp. Let's think of that as moving towards the D. Yeah. That's it. No, that's perfectly okay. Wet Dreams of Mahler.
Wet dreams.
I hasten to add, not mine.
What's the date today?
13th of October.
13-10-10, Wet Dreams of Mahler. I think that's the end of this rehearsal. There's no way we can follow that.
New.
I think it's incredibly important to rehearse with any composer to find out exactly what they want. Because something I've always said in the past, that they make a score and it's on paper and there's no sound, and we have to realize it. And so to have the composer there to witness, to explain, to change, whatever, transform the dots on the paper into sound is very important for me as an interpreter, to get that feedback. But in Brian's music it's particularly important because he is a composer that knows precisely what he writes, and it's so complex that to have him there analysing what you're doing and telling you, I want to hear a bit more of this or that, is something that is so important.
It sounded very good.
Huh?
It sounded very good.
It sounded quite resonant in here.
We're not going to know what the hall sounds like without a public sitting here.